We're training you up, buddy. Training you up.
What do you think? I don't even have a clue what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you look good?
Well, look okay. I like being on that side of the camera. I don't like being on this side of the camera.
Which camera should we look at?
Honestly, I don't know. I guess your input on, like, do you want it to be looking towards the camera or looking towards each other, or
as real as possible.
Yeah.
Like, this is probably going to be in it.
Yeah, probably.
I
think it's
probably
both.
that one. Or, yeah, just whatever. Mm-hmm. I guess we should tell the people what we're doing, right?
Hello.
Internet world. This is Mindset Savage Podcast. And
so
I don't have a clue what we're doing. We're just doing it.
Yeah.
First episode.
So who are you? What do you do?
My name is Kevin Monroe, and I do all kinds of things. I'm at a weird stage in life, man. I'm just putting steps down, going through paces, and figuring out the second part. I don't want to tell them too much yet.
Right.
You know, I don't want it.
Got to leave something to the imagination.
Well, not only that, but I feel like when I'm a guest on someone else's, I'll have more opportunity to share my side of it. Mm-hmm. And also, I feel like my story will come through more organically through conversation with the guest versus me just sit and tell my story.
Right.
You know, because I don't even know if I'm ready for that yet.
Right.
But I think that in this format, I want to focus on showcasing the guest, but then little bits of who I am tie into those conversations as well.
Well, thank you for having me as a guest.
That makes sense. Speaking of, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Young.
Matt Young, owner-operator of Young Videography, with my beautifully amazing wife, Nisi Young, who's actually taking our kids to a swim meet right now. So otherwise she'd be here hanging out with us and talking. So been running Young Videography for, oh gosh, I've lost count, 6 or 7 years. We started as a side hustle, and it quickly kind of outpaced our normal full-time jobs. We've been lucky and blessed with some good business and good people and clients and stuff, where it continues to grow and continuing taking it on further and further. So
that's kind of like why, aside from you being an expert at all this side of everything that I'm doing, the second reason that I wanted you to be one of my first guests, well, maybe third or fourth, aside from the personal friendships and whatnot, is your journey into this new business that you're in, and kind of how you went into it, and leaving the career that you once knew and at one point in time thought was going to be your forever career, when back in a time when we thought those were available. And then just kind of the story of how you branched out and left, and then just had the trust and going with it. And so I was thinking about like a title for the episode, and I really think that the first one is just going to be either just start or fuck it, let's go. What do you think was your mindset when you were ready to make that decision? I
don't know about the title for it, but the thing that kind of resonates with me is, you know, for the longest time, before I went full time with it, you and I had several conversations about it, and I was very hesitant about leaving, just because, you know, we've married, got kids. And
let me interrupt you.
Okay.
We need to tell the people what you did first.
Oh, okay.
Let's back up a little bit. Start with, I guess, out of high school, where your journey into adulthood kind of started. Get into that, and then that'll be a good spot for us to break into the next.
Okay, gotcha. So, you know, graduated high school, was still trying to figure out what I wanted to really do for a career in life. And back in those days, I didn't really put a whole lot of consideration into it, which I probably should have, looking back on it now. But started out with Dollywood Splash Country, just as a summer job, just to get a tan and meet people, you know. And so,
And check out chicks.
yeah, well, I wasn't going to say that, but since you said it,
That's what happens.
but really fell in love with the company, like the Hirsch Family Entertainment Company. Like there's good people there, and they take good care of their people. And when I had that summer job, it grew into a full-time job, to where I worked in the aquatics department for a few years at Splash Country, and then switched over to Dollywood and worked in rods, and then switched over to one of my favorite jobs while I was there. And I think I spent the most time with special events.
Yeah, at Dollywood.
Yeah, at Dollywood. Gotcha. And just
where did you? So you transferred from Splash Country. Were you just lifeguard there, or had you stepped up into more kind of managerial positions?
Yeah, I started out as a lifeguard, then moved up into a leadership role, and was in a leadership role there for a few years, and then. The GM at the time, Gene Shear, had kind of, I don't want to say pressured isn't the right word, but just said to kind of broaden my horizon to start looking at stuff across the street at Dollywood and everything. And so went to work over there and loved it. Yeah.
So it was an inner workings kind of thing still, though. Even though it was two separate parks, it was still kind of working together.
Still the same envelope as Hirsch Family Entertainment that owns a lot of different.
So it was an easy
parks.
transition.
Yeah, it was. And the thing that I really loved about the company, and that still sits with me today, is just like their servant leadership mentality. Is that I just fell absolutely in love with, and I still carry with me today. And just where you're serving the people that you're working with and everything else. And so that's why I was saying earlier that, I mean, it's a great company to work for, and they've held on to that for the most part, and that just was really great that I carried that with me throughout the years, and I think even to this day in young videography world. So
what are their core values there? Do they have any?
Yeah, they've got core values. I couldn't recite them offhand, but I mean, it's like constantly improving and taking care of other people. I don't want to misquote that. I'm not sure if I'd put that in there just because I don't want to.
Copyright infringement.
If I worked there for 20 years, I should know those. But yeah, I worked for the company for 20 years, and I absolutely love special events, and I probably should have went full-time a long time ago. Like, because when you and I were talking...
Into the videography thing? Yeah.
So, started doing videography on the side just for fun money, just to get, I found...
But had you messed around with cameras before that? No. What'd you start with? A GoPro?
Phones and GoPros. Yeah. So, we started out as just when our daughters were born, like with any parent, you just video everything. Right. It's any funny thing, any silly thing, anything that's, kids are the reason people upgrade from the base level iPhone to the 1 terabyte because your phone's got all these pictures,
the storage
and videos.
Space.
And so we started doing just fun stuff here around the house, just shooting with our phone or GoPros or and everything. And a good turning point was when we bought our first drone. And I remember telling my wife, I was like, we really need to get this drone. They just came out with the DJI Mavic, and I was like, that is just one badass drone. And
she wants to know how much it costs.
Yeah. And I pitched it in a way that I was like, our vacation videos are here. Imagine if we add some drone footage to it would be here. And, she was kind of against it at first. And I'm kind of glad we ended up getting it, because that was a turning point that really started showing me the production value and different things. And it started opening my eyes to...
Well, you saw a complete different quality of video too.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here looking at
the quality. This is back, what, 2010-ish, 12-ish?
Oh, I can't remember. I can't remember when the...
I mean, the technology and the quality of things. I mean, I remember cell phones were still at 8 megapixel, maybe. I mean, what did the GoPro start out at? About 8 megapixels when they first came out?
Let's look. You got me curious now. Let's see. When was the Mavic Pro 1 released? September 2016.
Oh, okay. So I was a little bit off.
Yeah. So September 2016, like I said, that opened up my eyes.
What was the megapixels on that starting out?
It shot 4K video.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Had a
Maybe
flight
I'm
time.
a little bit off.
It says it had a flight time of 27 minutes, which I'm going to dispute that. That's crap.
Okay. Let them know.
let's see, let's look up specs. Which that compared to the one we're flying now, which we're flying the Mavic 3 Pro now, and that's just a world of difference. Product information, Mavic Pro. Gosh, it seems so long ago. And the funny thing
I was
about
thinking way back.
And so it had a 1/2-inch sensor, shot 4K video, full HD. Did shoot where? Yeah, it was a 1/2-inch 2.3 CMOS sensor. I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but yeah.
Anyways, it was nothing like what you have now.
Yeah, nothing like we have now, and that just kind of accelerated other aspects of our I'd say our family production videos and everything. And so we wanted to get into some kind of video business. I started seeing the value of it, and I just loved creating videos. Just no matter what it was, if we're going to the beach, if we were pulling the kids around the kitchen island on a blanket, I always wanted to do fun things like that. And
did you find yourself enjoying the capturing more or the editing and creating?
I like the balance between the two. And I still like the balance today between shooting events or weddings or branding stuff.
Because some people prefer one or the other, right?
Yeah. There are some people that really like shooting and hate editing, or they really like editing and they just hate shooting. And so personally, I love the balance between the two. This time of year, I think a lot of video editors and wedding videographers are doing a lot of time editing, catching up from a crazy fall. And I like that balance from, we were getting our butts kicked this past fall in 2023 to where I wasn't crazy about going to another wedding for a while. And so I enjoyed shooting them, and all that kind of gets me re-energized. But in the same sense, I really enjoyed the past couple weeks just sitting here catching up on editing and down in the dungeon in here. So, but going back to when we first got started with that, so, we bought our first camera, which our first actual DSLR was a Nikon. I think it was a D5500. It was a crop sensor camera. But that I started being able to see the difference between, your iPhone pictures and your DSLR world and everything. And so at that time, I didn't really, I didn't have a great understanding of different camera manufacturers and which ones are better. And, I had some good photographer friends that we always talked about it and everything else. And so in the early days, we had a Nikon at one point.
I think in the very beginning, I argued with you on, you wanted Nikon and I told you Canon. And I think that you've had everything in between now. Yeah,
I had 2 Nikon bodies, which they were great for photos. They were really great for photos, but the video specs on them and just the workflow was just a nightmare on them. And so we switched into the world of Panasonic and Canon. And so when we first got started, we both had full-time jobs, me and Nisi both. And so any bit of money that we were making from Young Videography, we're just dumping right back into the business. And so, buying new cameras, new lenses, or anything else. And at that time, I wasn't planning on going full-time with it. It just over time, where it just continued to grow and build, and we got lucky and blessed to with some good business that got to a point where I had to make a decision to either stay at Dollywood and quit doing wedding videos and just videography in general, or vice versa. And so I know for us talking a lot of times before, you'd try to encourage me to leave a long time before I did, and I probably should have, but I was so afraid to take that leap. And I'm glad I did. I mean, I miss a lot of people. I sometimes miss the job at Dollywood and that community and everything, but just creating your own business and having the freedom to take it in the direction that you want it to go is incredible. And of course, there's some good tax benefits too. So.
Some amazing tax benefits. But look at the time that you have to spend with your children, your family, the flexibility that you have with that time, the finances that you have to be able to do more with them. But you sacrifice a lot as well with that.
It was a rough few years when I was doing both, because I was working 50, 60 hours a week at Dollywood. And then, capturing...
and that's not 50, 60 hours a week of 9 to 5 or, you know, extra overtime hours here and there. That's
there's some
out
8-hour
of
days, there's
season
some
work,
16-hour days, and
evenings, that's set up for special events and different weather, and that's and doing that whenever you can to whatever it needs, but then also flopping over to the video world, and weddings aren't all the same time, the same days, and
in the beginning it worked well because we weren't doing a whole lot of weddings and a whole lot of business. It was just that side hustle that was just bringing in some extra money. But the more and more that we did it, the busier and busier we got. The more, you know, every time we posted a video, it'd start getting messages or anything else. And it worked out great in the beginning, but then when we really started ramping up, like it came to a point where I was having to turn a lot of business away, just because there's for a few years where it was, there was a lot of sacrifice. So where I was working 50, 60 hours a week and editing whenever I could, because there'd be days off that I was either shooting a wedding or shooting a campground or just any kind of video product or anything to continue to grow the business. And that's when I started shifting around my mindset, been like, okay, I've really got to make this decision to go all in with it. And it's like, I love Dollywood and everything else, but I want that freedom and scheduling to have more time with the family. But working 50, 60 hours a week, and then whenever I got home, I'd have few minutes to play with the kids, do whatever, and then I was holding up in the studio just editing, getting caught up. So it was like working 7 days a week and staying up late at night and then getting up and doing it all over again, which in the long run that it really was worth it, because it helped us, you know, the amount of business that we were taking in, we're able to go into this business debt-free with all the equipment we need, with cameras and the lenses and the drones and the NAS drives and everything. So where we had those full-time jobs, that was allowing us to put everything towards the business. So when we were ready to go full-time, we had everything we needed.
A short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. And when you started out, you were doing photo and video.
Yeah, when the business was technically created, it was Young Photography and Videography. So we're offering both. And, you know, we did a couple weddings that way where we're doing photo and video. We're able to make it work, but we just didn't like that whole workflow. We definitely realized that we had more of a passion for video. You know, we still do some photo work for people from time to time, but as far as doing photo and video wedding coverage, we realized that we couldn't do it alone. And so, you know, we still have weddings where we do photo and video, but we bring on extra help to help us out with that, so we're not just doing it ourselves.
And you like doing the video more than the photo anyway, right? Personally.
And I've got more of a passion for the video piece of it, but I do have a passion for the photo piece of it too, it's
a different art, I think.
Yeah, it's a different art.
Especially with the amount of like post-production process that can be done now. Like AI is around and you can pretty much do anything with everything, but it's a complete different process with a video versus a still photo.
Yeah, completely. But I love being able to convey that emotion to where, you know, a picture can convey emotion. That's a snapshot of a moment, more or less. And then with video, you're capturing the whole thing where it really triggers those emotions. And that still to this day, like whenever we're editing our wedding films, like if it doesn't give me tingles or like, you know, some of those incredible emotions whenever I'm reviewing it, then I go back and start fix it, because like even to this day, after editing since 2016 wedding films every year, you know, you think that you would start to get numb to that, but I still don't.
You still get internally emotion.
Oh yeah, there's still, you know, some more so than others, like you know,
which I mean, but I guess when you're there shooting it, you're so laser focused on watching the little screens on your cameras or paying attention to what everybody's doing that I guess when you create the video, that's really the first time you've seen the ceremony, like legitimately, because you've been focused on so much other things going on to be able to create that for them. So I guess, you know, you're seeing it as like, there it is. And then you're experiencing it outside of where you were that day.
And, you know, and every videographer has their own style and how they edit. You know, some people use a little bit too much slow motion, some people don't use enough, and some people have more of a, like a documentary style and everything. And it's interesting to watch how our style has changed over the years, because in the beginning, like, I was shooting everything at an extremely high frame rate, everything in slow motion. It was... And the thing that I quickly learned was that I wasn't really capturing the moments, I was just capturing some really sweet shots. And I was like, that's great and all, but that's not really delivering what we want to deliver.
Didn't have that
people.
personal touch to it.
Right. And so, you know, as we got more and more experienced and we kind of redefined how, like, our trajectory and what kind of films we wanted to create, we wanted to capture that emotion. We know we still want to get like the super cinematic shots that are just amazing. Everybody wants to get that, but you know, capturing everything back in real time to where, you know, you can really feel that and actually tell that story instead of just a bunch of groupings of a bunch of shots lined together and actually telling the story of a wedding day.
So is that something you noticed through your editing style and as you were creating them that you altered a little bit because you wanted to see a little bit more emotion there?
Yeah. And to kind of telling that story, because at the end of the day, we want our clients and our couples to watch this and relive those emotions. And so that kind of shifted our style a little bit. We're almost kind of like a hybrid between highlight and documentary style. And so where we want to be able to capture both, where you get the cinematic shots, but we like that balance between those really killer slow-mo shots and then but the actual moments happen in real time. And, you know, the first looks and letter reading and the killer speeches and not so killer speeches.
Is that kind of its own little niche that most people either do one or the other, or
usually there's
usually a fine balance?
There are some videographers that have different options, like in their packages, where they've got like a documentary style edit.
They'll completely change how they do it for you. Oh wow.
Yeah. And so
I think I'd rather stick to what your style is, not you do what I want you to. Because I would rather hire you for your style, not I want you to do this one, because then you're just doing something you can do, not something you necessarily want to do.
Yeah, and I agree. And we've actually turned some people away before that because they wanted us to mirror somebody else's style. I was like, well, if you want us to mirror somebody's style, just hire that person.
Yeah.
You know, we want to stay somewhat consistent in the type of work we use because...
Well, that's your brand.
That's our brand, and when people are looking us up on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, you know, they're hiring you based off that workflow that you've already done. All the wedding films that they've seen, they saw like a Friends, or they saw it on Instagram, and
they've reviewed your resume and are ready to accept you for the job.
Yeah.
But based off of what your resume was.
Right.
They're not looking at your resume and say, okay, well, we're going to hire you to drive the truck.
Right. And, you know, and not to say that we don't change, but like, for instance, there was a bride we had when let me jump back here. So like the music that we usually choose for the wedding is matching the energy of the wedding.
Right.
And so we had one not too long ago that it was in 2023 up at the Trillium. And there was just a lot of high energy. The reception and first look and everything, just a really high energy couple. And knowing that, I wanted to shift gears a little bit on our music selection. Usually, like, it's a little bit slower and kind of energy building or emotion building throughout the film. But this one, I wanted a faster paced song that was completely different than what we've done before. And so knowing that the bride's probably looked at our workflow before, I reached out to her beforehand and say, hey, we did a little bit of a different music selection with this based off just kind of energy or wedding. Let me know your thoughts. And she's like, I love it. Use it. That is amazing. And so it turned out great. And so kind of talking out of the other side of my mouth is it's good to be consistent, but also don't be opposed to change it up a little bit.
Well, do you think that your style does change some based on the couple's energy, the vibe of the day, like in, I guess, the way that you shoot? I guess your editing style could somewhat stay pretty consistent, but how you shoot based on, I guess, cause too, like people, you can tell people don't want you all up in their personal space, and then other people are probably putting their arm around you and inviting you into their personal space.
Yeah, so it's twofold. It's one is that we want to be as invisible as we can be. You know, we want to be able to capture all those critical moments and people hanging out and they've not seen each other for a while, because a lot of our couples
but you want to appear to be invisible, because you're definitely not.
Yeah, we try to be as invisible as we can be. We don't get all up in their business at all. And, we've heard horror stories about some photographers and videographers that, especially during the ceremony, they get within a few feet away from the couple. And we've chosen not to do that because the day's about them, and we're not going to get in between them and their guests, because their guests are there to see that. That's the reason we asked them to, hey, put your phones away. You're here to enjoy a moment. And so, there's a reason we've got zoom lenses. We ain't got to be a foot away from them. So the cool thing about that is several times we've had couples say, I didn't even know you were in the room capturing this. And so, like, if they're having a moment with their mom or dad or a family member or anything else, we're always trying to capture all those moments. So like on the wedding day, where me or Nisi, whoever's shooting with, we'll split up and capture a bunch of different things at the same time. But there's been a few that when they came back and say, that was such an amazing moment, I'm so glad you caught it, and I didn't even know you were in the room. Like that's an incredible feeling to kind of get that response.
Do you think that's easier as a videographer, where a photographer sometimes needs people to stop and give them their attention and things, where as a videographer you're just kind of letting the day unfold the way that it would, and you're just kind of moving around capturing it?
It's a little bit of both, where some photographer styles, they capture the same candid moments. We like the balance between those candid moments and some stage stuff. Most of the stage stuff is with the bride and groom for like their sunset session or whatever. But with any photographer or videographer, depending on their style, some stage a lot and some don't. Some just capture the moments as they happen. And if they're doing certain types of pictures, they might have them pose a little bit differently because it looks better on camera for photo and video. So in a way, you're capturing some of those candid moments. You're just tweaking a little bit to make it look better.
So that's when I ever tried to do some photography back in the day. That was my hardest thing, was like telling people what to do. Because to get the look you want, you have to tell them to be a little uncomfortable and somewhat look what they would feel like would be goofy. But it actually transpires into what you need. But for me, I'm like, that didn't go well with me a whole lot.
And usually, like, I don't want to say usually, but a lot of times the more awkward it feels is those shots turn out the best a lot of times. And it's just crazy how that works.
It's weird, but I guess it's like anything, you get comfortable with it. What do you think technology is doing with this? Well, not aside from the gear, but the technology within the software and like AI and stuff like that. What is that doing to the industry, you think?
I mean, it's helping it grow to a way, and then I think a lot of people that are using it, they're using it to their advantage, in that where photographers are able to use AI to help move their process along or their workflow. They're using it to their advantage and not being threatened by it, and there's some people in the industry that doesn't like it because it's afraid they're going to take their jobs away. And the way a lot of photographers that we work with, they've started adapting to that. And so where they're using certain AI tools to help in their process just gives them more time and more, because anytime they're saving on the back end with editing or, email correspondence or anything else, anything that's helping with that, it's just giving you more time on your business and your couples, and being able to deliver a better experience for your couples.
But what do you think about it, with it being a lower barrier to entry with people that can not have experience and not have the skills, but they can go out and they can video, then put it in their computer and tell AI to analyze Matt Young's video styles, analyze this person's video styles, and then edit this video how they would?
And see, the video tools aren't there yet for that part of it. Definitely, I think in photo there's more options for that, but still, even if you're having AI help you with anything on the back end, AI is not going to help you shoot it. It's not going to help you determine the angle that you want to get. It doesn't determine what, place setting or what background or anything else. Anybody can go out there with a phone or camera and take a picture, but like an experienced photographer or videographer can really set the scene up right to where you've got the best view, the best angle, and in shooting that, I mean, anybody can put their camera in auto, but then of course if you have somebody that knows what they're doing, that can really adjust their shutter speed and aperture and ISO and white balance and have that all to their advantage. I don't think that's a threat in the near future, I guess, to people in the media world with...
So you don't think that your job could be threatened by AI anytime soon?
I don't see it anytime soon. I mean, I think that...
It can continue to help, but not hinder for a while.
Because,
until a robot can carry a gimbal around.
Right. that'd be a lot different. I'll just buy me a robot then and have it help me. Yeah. But yeah, editing, or AI can help with the editing process, but it can't help the shooting process, and that's a lot of it.
Right.
And there's video tools like in the AI world that can help, like with like talking head shots like this, that can automatically chop up and cut the timeline up to where it makes sense. But like in a wedding film or something like that, or even like any kind of corporate branding film, you're telling a story.
Right.
And AI is not there yet to where it can pick out sections of clips or anything else to really help tell that story. And to
know the importance of it and if it had meaning and whatnot to it,
because it could probably analyze colors.
But you could probably tell it to pick out certain things. See, that's what's crazy is the AI is more not about what it can do, because its options are endless. It's how you prompt it to do what you're asking it to do. And I think that if you prompt it well, and I mean, it learns as it goes. I mean, I feel like you could almost prompt it to do just about anything aside from physical acts.
Yeah, it is crazy how that's just grown so fast with AI and like ChatGPT. And I use ChatGPT for certain things. And do you ever tell ChatGPT thank you?
No, I don't mess with it.
I always do.
I messed with it a little bit when it came out just to kind of see what it would do, but then like, I'm not that interested yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if I will be.
I like it. Like there's certain tasks that I have it help me with, but Rebecca Caldwell, Justin's wife, we were talking about ChatGPT one night, and she's like, I always make a point to say thank you to it.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I never even thought about that. So anytime I use it now, like I always say thank you, and it's like, you're very welcome. Let me know if there's anything I can help with.
So now you're building a relationship with
it's crazy.
Artificial intelligence. That's a little wild.
When Skynet comes out,
sometimes
maybe they'll
I thank my delivery driver through Alexa, and I think that she tips them or something. I don't know. It said you can tip your delivery driver or tell them thank you or something. Yeah. And I mean, why not? I get my deliveries right. I'm like, if I have to say, hey, her, and then thank my driver, I'm going to keep doing it. So what do you think, what do you see your next big move in the industry being? Or what do you see the next move in the industry at all that would be big? And then what are you going to do with it?
Well, I don't want to say it's the next big thing, but something that a lot of people in the video world has been talking about, especially like wedding videographers, is wedding content creators, is where they almost see like wedding content creators walking around with a phone being like an issue for videographers. And I'm like, it's two totally different things.
Right. So you mean like a guest that's there?
Yeah, so something that just recently started becoming a thing, and like I've actually worked with one. She was great, and she was very considerate, and where they just follow the bride around and the groom around and just capture a bunch of footage on your phone. Right. Like it's not edited, it's not anything else other than them just the raw footage.
Candid raw. Here you go.
And I think it's a pretty neat thing for couples to have, because if they hire somebody to do that, their bridesmaids or brother or sister, no one's having to get that for them. So if they've got somebody going around with a phone, then they can actually capture that for them. That way the rest of them can enjoy the
entire wedding party's still there.
Yeah, when I first heard about it, I was like, what?
But then you're getting more into you're involved in my personal space and in the day and stuff.
Yeah, and so I think that there's the one that we worked with, I think it was called like Follow the Bride or something like that. They did a really good job where they weren't intrusive into the couple's day. They weren't intrusive with me, the photographer, and worked alongside with us. Right. And was very.
They just took a professional approach to it.
Yeah, and they did very, very well.
It's interesting.
And so we started offering that as an add-on to where we can capture the same stuff as we're doing it. And so it's just kind of like a package deal. If they're already considering hiring one, then we can just add it onto our wedding video package if we're going to be there instead of having somebody else. So
how did that little app thing that you did with your all's renewal of vows workout. I
Oh,
think I was one of the very few people that
Yeah,
uploaded on it.
you did a lot on there. Yeah. I appreciate that. Well, a lot of people, I mean, the good thing was a lot of people weren't playing on their phones.
Right.
They were just enjoying it and everything else. But the first go around 10 years prior to that, when we had that, I can't even remember the name of the app. It was similar setup to where guests could just upload their pictures and videos.
So essentially it's taken, when we were younger, they had the little box cameras, and we put them on every table and say, take one and go around and take a bunch of random shots, and then at the end you would turn them in, they'd go have them developed, and they would have just a bunch of random photos throughout the day, which is cool. Fast forward to today, everybody's got a phone and the ability to upload them, but you carry this around with you all the time. It's your phone first, and so I feel like that's where on that day I'd feel like more people were involved in it and left their phones in their pocket, which I did for the most part. I intentionally made myself do it because I saw that no one else was, and I was like, I want to take a lot and do it, but it's the same concept, but I feel like this doesn't get used as much, even though it's a whole lot simpler process. Everybody's already got one. You can upload them instantaneously. But it's like that thought of there's not something there for you new to pick up and to interact, everybody else doing it too, and it be like a theme for the day or something.
Now that kind of leads me to something so this past year we started doing something different, which a lot of videographers are starting to do now, to where we give the bridal party a camcorder.
Okay. So
we just like
a little handheld.
Yeah, I saw something on Instagram or Facebook somewhere where somebody did that, and I was like, that is genius. And because like anytime a photographer, videographer walks into a room, everybody dials it back a little bit, So if you give the bridal party a camcorder, just say have fun with it, just get some fun behind the scenes stuff. You can interview guests, or you can do whatever. And some people just wear that thing out, where they kill the battery or fill up the SD card, and some don't even touch it. But
their mission is to record as much as they can.
Yeah, and they I can think of a handful of people that just did great with it, and it's. It's not any kind of upcharge or anything else. We just hand it to them and say, here, just have fun with it. If you want to do it, great. If you don't want to, don't feel like you have to. And the authenticity that we get out of that is incredible. Yeah. Like, the quality isn't on par with our bigger cameras, but in the same sense, the authenticity that we get from it for our couples, like, the couples just absolutely love it.
Do you edit those clips?
Nope,
you
don't
just
touch them.
Put them in.
Yeah, we will plug, depending on some of the scenes, we might plug some of that into the highlight film if it makes sense, but we won't use all of it because that just turns into a huge documentary style, reality TV show.
So do you give that footage to the bride and groom?
We give all that to them. And so,
cool.
Like, even there's times me and Nisi go back and look at our original wedding date where Chris Haynes was carrying that GoPro around. Yeah. We look at that more than anything else when we go back and look at anything on our wedding day.
Because you want to know what everybody else is doing. Yeah. You're so engulfed in everything of the day, emotions and planning and doing this and doing that, and you don't know what anybody else is doing and what their experience is.
And I completely agree. And we always tell our couples that your wedding day is going to fly by. Like, it's just going to be over like that. And, even of us being in the wedding industry and doing our vow renewal, like, I've felt that resonate big time on our vow renewal.
Being on the other side.
Just because you're so busy doing this, and you're cutting the cake, and you're doing sunset pictures, and you're doing this, got to go up, and so all that can fly by, and you can miss it. And so our couples really enjoy having footage of that. Right. But like I said, we go back and look at ours all the time. Now, granted, Haynes is a little... I guess eccentric's a good word. Yeah. And so just him going around talking to people and taking it to the bathroom, and but we look at that stuff all the time. Right. It just cracks us up just because we can see all that stuff.
Well, there's a similar balance, because on the other side of the fence, I felt like I didn't see you all at all that day. Yeah. You were off doing this or off doing that, or busy doing this and busy doing that. And so when we see the photos and the videos and stuff, we get to see what you all were doing behind the scenes. But then flip it to where when you got to see the photos and other videos other people were taking, you would get to see what was going on while you were busy doing everything else.
That brings up another good point I was thinking about. So a lot of times on the wedding day, we're getting a lot of the getting ready and mingling and hanging out. You know, when we first got started, I was always getting the stereotypical shot of the groom buttoning up his jacket, adjusting his tie, which we still get those too, but we don't use those as much as them just hanging out and mingling. Like if they're out there doing shuffleboard or just hanging out enjoying the sun, or like Stephen and
being
Kendall,
who they are.
Like Stephen and Kendall when they got married. There was a moment where Stephen gives his son a high five, and they're just in there hanging out, and he's helping him getting ready.
Right.
You know, and Kendall was saying how critical that was to see that, because she
never would have seen it.
Yeah, because she was in there and locked up in a room getting ready. She didn't get to see those moments, and so, you know, having heard that and seeing that, that really shifted like our editing style to back that up more.
Right.
And, you know, that
knowing what moments were important to them.
And, you know, like the cinematic shots are great, like I said before, but we like the balance between those. We're starting to gravitate more towards those natural moments to where that's things they want to see forever and ever.
We'll personalize it for each individual.
And we never want our films to look like cookie cutter films where it's just like you plug in a template and just like it's every wedding's different. Every wedding's got a different story. You know, some do first looks, some don't. Some write vows, some don't write vows, and different speeches and different people. And so we try to tailor that to each of our couples.
Have you ever thought about putting all of them on like a YouTube channel or anything?
We do some of ours on YouTube, which I am terrible about posting to YouTube. It's,
but do you think that each video is more, I mean, of course it's personalized to the couple themselves, but we live in a world now that is so engulfed in what everybody else is doing that people sit and watch people play video games or garden or do all kinds of stuff. It's like, who would sit back and watch a bunch of people get married, you know, and aside, you've got so many different aspects. You've got your video quality, you've got your editing quality, you've got...
I would say a bride definitely would. Yeah. Hang on, what did I do with my water? Sorry, I drank all my grapefruit juice.
I mean, aside from a marketing aspect, but just a straight entertainment, you know, and then you could monetize it and make some money.
Hang on, I'm listening. He's making sure that was still going. I think the
monitor quit.
Yeah, I think battery died on it.
The internet doesn't have to know this was the first episode.
Yeah.
There's no telling what the internet can know. What do you see Young Videography doing to take things into a higher level overall, and then I guess like a 5-year plan for where you want things to be?
So we started, let me back up a minute. So our original packages, like wedding film packages, where we wanted them to be very simple. We didn't want a bunch of different things that you could add on or do this or do that. We wanted something simple that a bride could look at wedding film packages and say, yeah, I want this one. This one makes more sense for me. Instead of having a mix and match and custom stuff. But as we've continued to grow, we realized some of our couples want some of that customization. Yeah. So we started adding some options, like some a la carte options for our packages, so where we can add on, you know, rehearsal dinner coverage or toast add-on or full dances add-on. But the two biggest ones that we started doing here recently was the video guest book and same day teaser. So starting off with the video guest book, so I wanted to have some kind of option that where guests come up, they can come up and leave a message for the bride and groom. This kind of stems off of that video or the camcorder thing. And because we were getting a lot of good footage off that, but I was like, I want like something that's almost like a video booth where they can come up, leave a message for the bride and groom.
Just walk up, say blah, 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 and then go. Yeah.
And so you can't just leave a camera just set up there running the whole time. And so we developed a setup earlier this year that we tested out on some of our brides, saying, hey, we're not going to charge you for this, but you're going to be our guinea pigs if you're cool with that. And like, oh, heck yeah, we'll do that. And so, and you know, we made tweaks from that and had a really good setup where guests come up, we've got a microphone, a camera, and a light. They come up, attach the iPad, counts down, and they leave like a 30-second message to the bride and groom. And
that's pretty cool.
The stuff we get out of that's incredible too.
What's it filming on? Recording on the iPad?
No, it's actually recording on one of our cameras. So that's actually a very good point. originally, you know, we've seen some video booths or photo booths too that just use like an iPad camera. And I love my iPad, but the front-facing camera on that's just garbage. And so I wanted a way to be able to tie in one of our big cameras to set it up on a tripod, and I figured out a setup to where it's tied to the iPad, but it also records the video message on the cloud through the iPad, but it also records all the video files on the camera as well.
So the iPad's the controller.
iPad controls it and runs the camera, and then
is there an app that you've programmed that you've set at 30 seconds only?
Yeah.
And then it automatically does what it needs to do with the footage, process it, put it where it needs to go and everything?
And the thing that I like about it is it puts the video file on the camera as well. So in our workflow, when we're dumping all the footage, we can just dump that right onto the project file, and that way if we want to use any of that, we can.
Yeah.
And some
it's
of
all each individual clips? Gotcha.
And so it's one of those that some of those turn out really, really good, and some of those are very, very inappropriate. And
you can delete those little clips.
Well, I tell the couples, I said, I'm not going to delete these, because if you want to see it, that's up to you. But just know that I'm not going to delete these. So if your guests come up and say something, and
it was your guest.
Yeah,
You're just the messenger.
Yeah, and so there was actually a wedding film gallery that I sent the other day that had the video guestbook file in it, and I put in the email saying, make sure you've got your volume down if you're at work or if you're at home with kids, or put your headphones in for this one. She's like, okay, I think I know who you're talking about. So
yeah, and I'm sure that they're going to know like who their friends are and who they've invited, and who's going to say what and not what not.
Yeah, so the video guest book, that's one new thing that we started offering. Just absolutely love it. So
is that an add-on?
Gotcha. So it's an add-on, and then it's actually included in our top tier package. So the top tier package holds a lot of different thing to it, but that's an add-on if someone wants like a lower package, but they want to add that on there.
Right.
And the other big one that we just started really fine-tuning big time this last year is our same-day teaser. And so, you know, a lot of companies offer that, and I wanted to do it right. Like, I didn't want the struggle with the same-day teaser is you've got to dump footage throughout the whole day, because it takes so long to transfer footage and import it into the editing program and get it culled and sorted in the way you want it. So you got to do it as the day progresses while you're still capturing everything else. And so we're pretty much having an editor on site, which is usually me, and we bring on an extra shooter, and we're editing it as the day goes on. And then before the end of the reception, we have a big screen and a projector, and we show them their teaser that night. And
wow.
And you know,
how are you doing that?
And so, without going into any details or giving it away, but we're dumping footage throughout the whole day.
Yeah.
And you know, we already have some preliminary conversations with a couple going into it, so we can have our project file set up going into the wedding day. And we did it as a trial run in 2022, the fall of 22 at the Trillium. There was a friend of mine that I knew since he was just a little guy. His name was Jake. And they had booked us for their wedding, and actually until I met him in person, I didn't realize I knew him. Until we met for an engagement shoot.
Someone you hadn't seen in a long time, I imagine?
Yeah. I was friends with his older sister in high school, and when I first met him, I mean, he was just a little guy. I remember I used to chase him around his house all the time and play with him, whatever. But
so an acquaintance for the most part.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so, as a surprise to them, I had that goal of I wanted to be able to deliver a same-day teaser, and I wanted to do it right. I didn't want just some quickly thrown
Chopped
together.
Up, put together, yeah.
Like, I wanted to be right. I wanted to hit those same emotions that we still do on our regular teasers. And so, you know, spent some time and adjusted our workflow to be able to accommodate that process, how I wanted it to work. And I remember and so I didn't tell them that I was doing this either. So that way, if I failed, no big deal. Right. So it'd be a trial run. But, you know, we brought on an extra shooter that day to help us shooting. And then as soon as the right moment, when I captured everything I needed to capture, I just went into a room and put on my AirPods and just started going to town.
As you're filming, are you in the back of your mind saying, okay, this is one that I'm going to put in there, this like shot I'm going to put in there?
Yes, and I already had a song picked out. I already had, you know, based on, because I knew them, and I knew the kind of feeling that the song.
So you're building the teaser as you're creating the shots, basically.
And creating that in my head. And so I know their wedding was over at 10, and I was like, I want to have this done by 9:15. That way we've got 45 minutes breathing room, depending on if there's anything going on, because I didn't want to interrupt anything. And so, I locked myself into a room up there, put my AirPods on. The interesting part about that one was there was this kid that was just so interested in what I was doing. Yeah. That he just kept coming in there and just trying to talk to me. And I was like, look, kid, like
a small kid, or
yeah, like this kid was like, he was just, because the room I was in had all our camera gear in it. So had this case here, and there was a drone here and this. Then I had my camera set up on a workstation, and he was just amazed at what I was doing.
So he was genuinely interested, not pestering or being an annoyance.
Was not trying to be.
But you also had something you were trying to get done.
Yeah, and so it put me in a weird spot because he was, super nice. Yeah. He was just amazed by everything, and I was like, I'll come if you give me a little bit. Let me get this done. I'll show you everything I got in here, buddy. And he just kept coming back in there. Nisi walked in there and just started giggling and laughing at me at one point. And I think she helped distract him and get him out of there. But super sweet kid. But when I did that, and it just so happened the owner of the venue was there that night too, and he got to see that. And this was our first trial run. I was a freaking nervous wreck. Yeah. I don't really feel like I get nervous about anything. And like I was shaking, I could feel my heart rate going up because, I was getting ready to project this on the side of the building. Yeah. And having the entire party there watch this. And so,
Now, did you get up and announce it?
So I was working with the DJ. It was a planning company, Margaret Claire's, that we work with a lot, and the DJ Keith. We work with them all the time. So I reached out to them prior and say, hey, here's my plan. This is what I'm going to do.
So they were in the loop a little bit.
Yeah, so they knew about it, and I'd reached out to the DJ and asked him if I could borrow a speaker. And so based off of that speaker that we used that night is the reason I bought the one we've got now as we're offering it. So it got it all set up, and I went out to the groom and said, hey, I've got a surprise for you. And he thought I was playing a joke on him. He was like, Matt, what are you going to do? And I was like, you're going to like this. And so I walked back in. I said, just here in a few minutes, the DJ is going to call everybody back, because they were dancing on the patio, and we brought everybody back in to watch this on the inside of the Trillium's got this huge white wall that is just like perfect. So we just projected that up on the wall.
Did you try projecting anything on there prior to this?
No.
Or you just knew that?
I just knew. I mean, you
were pretty confident it was going to work.
Yeah, I was confident
to project it onto that wall.
And so I had my Mac sitting there paired to the projector, and then I had my Mac paired to that Bluetooth speaker, and Keith looked over at me and I gave him a thumbs up, and so he got on there and said, hey, the media team from tonight's wedding's got a surprise for the bride and groom. We need everybody to come inside. And so everybody's like, what is going on? Yeah. And so I only told a handful of people at this. And so the planners and coordinators and the photographers and everything, and a few of the guests that I knew, like his older sister that I went to high school with, like I told her what was going on, and she was so giddy and excited about it for him. And I hit play, and that was like such an incredible moment. I was still shaking at this point. And
were you watching it, or were you watching their reaction?
Well, they were sitting right in front of me, but Nisi had a camera on them to get their reaction.
Gotcha.
But I was behind them next to my computer in case anything went wrong, I could respond to it. And hearing their reaction, that shaking feeling went from like nervous to just like sheer excitement. Like I still get chills thinking about it. Yeah. And at the end of it, we still had our logo fade out, and it was beautiful. I don't ever want to sound too arrogant, but that was a damn good teaser. Right.
And so you can boast yourself a little bit.
Yeah, and as soon as that logo faded out to the end of their teaser, and the whole dang room stood up and cheered.
Yeah.
And I was just...
That's awesome. Like, none of them had any idea it was the first time you'd done that?
No. Like I said, that was a trial run. It was a surprise, and the trial run, the reason it was going to be a surprise, so if for some reason there was something I overlooked or didn't plan for, then be like, okay, we'll try it on the next one. But it worked out perfect. The day worked out great, and so...
That's one thing I love about kind of the secrecy of what I've done in life, and I do everything and then tell people. Because for one, I don't want anyone you know, the naysayers to say, you know, don't do that. There's this that can happen. Everybody that does that fails. All the nonsense that goes with it. But also, if I don't get it right, I can mess up as many times as I want to until I get it right. And then when I'm sure of it and confident of it, then I can let people know.
Yeah.
But I can fail as many times as I need to along the way, and nobody knows.
Right.
And I haven't told anybody, so their expectations being set for whatever I'm doing aren't either getting met or not met because they don't have any. I'm the only person that has expectations, and I get to create them as I go. And I get to allow it to be whatever I want it to be, fine-tuned however I want it to be, and then tell people.
Yeah.
You know, like most people have no idea that I was doing a podcast until just a week ago or so when I finally said it, but I haven't said any details, what it's going to be about, what it's going to do, because I really don't even know yet.
Right.
We're just winging it and
we're just winging. I think it's going good so far.
Rolling with it. So, but the cool thing is, and I think that my goal is, I want to get 15 episodes recorded and ready before I even put one out there.
Right.
Because ideally,
push them out.
Right. I mean, eventually, I would like to get to one a week. I don't know how possible that is right now. Maybe one every 2 weeks. Either way, I need to be consistent. So if let's say one a month right now. Well, if I've got 12 pre-recorded, I've at least got a whole year's worth of posting to be consistent with.
Yeah.
But I want to
It's kind of like a TV show season or anything.
Right. But most people are going to say, oh, I'm launching a podcast. I'm going to do it. First episode, here we go. They're going to do it, record it, edit it, put it up. Well, they don't even have their second guest yet.
Yeah.
You know, so then they've let people know, they've set a standard, created some expectations. Now they're in panic mode. They find somebody else. They got to go record it. They got to do it. Then they got to, upload it. And then the viewers have either lost interest or they have interest still with a certain expectation, or we may find some new ones and this and that. So I think that scheduling it out to be consistent first and foremost allows me to do it the way that I want to do it. But then also whenever I release the first one, I've already got 15 others done, 13, whatever.
And if you ever need to do any kind of pressing one, you can interject those in it and everything.
And I can set how I want it to be. I can create the story that I want it to tell. I can say, the first few episodes that were new didn't have a whole lot of structure to them or theme to them. So I can maybe spread those out through some others to fill it in to where it's not looking like the first few were messed up and then we kind of got shit figured out, or vice versa, or whatever. And I feel like that will reduce the stress of if I can't get someone scheduled weekly, I can get them scheduled bi-weekly, or, I've got a week or two between. I've got enough content already ready that I'm still consistently posting on whatever schedule I decide to post with.
Right. So let me ask you a question on the podcast thing. So what is your opinion? Why have podcasts started to become a thing?
I think the realness and authenticity, really. You look at taking it back to listening to someone speak, and I look at it as through car speakers. That's when I kind of started listening to podcasts, was in a vehicle. And so, growing up, my grandmother listened to books on tape or whatever, and put the cassette tape in, and a monotone voice is reading whatever it may be. But at the time I'm like, man, how do you pay attention to this or whatever, And so, but then it's like, it's the new format of that or whatever, but you're doing it. And I don't think that all podcasts are engaging, or I could sit and listen to everything about it. But I think that the podcasts that have a guest, that's more of a conversation style format and is pretty authentic, I think, is just a new way for people to feel like they're involved in conversation.
Yeah.
You and I could have this conversation. What sucks is that we don't have this conversations as many or as much as we should, unless it's planned. But you and I could have these conversations, and we have for years, but it was just you and I.
Yeah.
Now,
and how many times after we're having some of those really interesting conversations, we're like, why the hell did we record that?
Yep, 100%. I should have done it a long time ago. I wasn't ready, but we should have, at least for some B-roll footage of something, or catching little clips. But I think that now we can invite so many more people into the conversation.
Yeah.
And with the world going more digital, everybody having it in the palms of their hands, I think that I'll have more success through this podcast on YouTube than I will on Spotify or Apple Podcast platform. I hope that there's a reach on both, but I'm wanting more on the YouTube format.
Yeah, and I think they're more successful on that than you know. There's some of the bigger names like Joe Rogan and some of those that get like a Spotify deal. I think people will be able to find you more through YouTube and that social media algorithm than they could in Spotify.
Well, aside from that, is I'm strategically too trying to pick my guest in who's going to create the best, engaging conversation and episode to be on, but then also is going to want to share it, and those people share it with their guests. And I have a very broad range of connections and friendships and acquaintances and whatnot that I think I'll be able to just reach so many people pretty quickly. But it might be in 6 months whenever I finally start releasing them, and that's part of it. I know the goal is here. But I have to go through all of this before I'm ready.
I think that's very smart to go through and do that. Just kind of where you alluded to earlier that, some people just start it just to start it, go ahead and get some content out there, and they don't have the patience that
and they fall off.
Yeah.
And I don't want to fall off because the first episodes were shit and the comments were horrible.
Yeah.
I don't want that, but maybe I wasn't cut out for podcast. Who the hell's cut out for it? We're having a conversation.
Right. Yeah.
I will get better because I'll get more comfortable. But this is not a craft that I'm practicing to perfect because it's authentic.
Speaking of guests, somebody you should have on here?
Who's that?
Murky.
Yeah. I thought about, and I've been thinking about this. I wanted to do this from 2019, right before the scamdemic, and that ruined everything. But I'm glad now that it's being done this way. But I was thinking that one cool thing to do would be like, whoever I interview has to nominate another guest. But look at that for maybe if I had different segments throughout the channel or something, because somebody that I'm interviewing on just like a personal level might say somebody that, people that want to watch on a business level don't have any interest in. So maybe each business that I do, and only the reason I do that is because I feel like it would get more guests that wouldn't necessarily be open to it. Say if we had this episode and you thought, man, somebody that would be really good at this, but they would probably never do it in any other format, then, that would be helpful to say, Matt, who do you say? And then we reach out to them and say, hey, do you want to do this? And that would probably, I would say 9 times out of 10, they'd probably do it that way.
I think so.
And it might be something that I can implement into, and, because, some podcasts have their show and then 3 different segments in their show. Andy Frisella does his question and answers. He does CTI, and then he does, conversational interviews and things. And it could be something that, transpires into that. Because I want to get as many people as I can talk to.
Right.
Aside from the fact that I do love that and enjoy it, but I hope that it can create a movement that really shows people, I don't know what I want to show them, but whatever the world needs right now, I guess. I don't know. Trying not to put too many of my views in there yet.
Well, you kind of hit on it too, where people are wanting to see podcasts for the realism piece of it.
Well, we don't know what to trust and believe anymore.
Yeah, I don't watch the news anymore. There's the mainstream media is so. I don't trust anything that comes out of the mainstream media, and therefore I don't watch it at all. I get all my news, via the internet or different podcast channels or everything else, because I believe those individuals, or I believe are more aligned with their views, I guess would be.
Right.
Mainstream media is, I don't want to get into that, but it's not real. Different.
None of it.
No, it's not.
And a lot of people, we've known that it hadn't, I have known that it hadn't been real for a long time. And I think that a lot of eye-opening things were when Tucker Carlson left Fox, and he publicly said, they're just like everybody else. Every bit of it is propaganda.
Yeah.
And then I still go to people's houses that are have always been plugged into that, and they're still watching. I'm like, he told you. Why are you still? Well, we got to keep up with this, or we got to keep up with that. And I'm like,
well, did you ever see that video that somebody did where they took a significant amount of different news stations,
same scripts,
and it was the same message where they blended it all together? And I was like I already had this mindset that was, I didn't believe the media anyway.
Right.
But then when I saw that, I was like, holy shit! I was like, that
everything's
is nuts.
manipulated.
Yeah.
Everything. And the thing that really sucks, without getting into it too much, the thing that sucks is that people are just so naive to realize how easily and quickly, especially in today's society with technology, that things can be done. Because, people are still thinking, I remember back in the beginning of scamdemic nonsense and fact checkers on internet, people were like, who's sitting there fact checking all this stuff? And it's blowing my mind that people think that Facebook really has 100,000 employees at a computer fact checking things. They can't wrap their brains around the fact that it's all being done through algorithms and AI.
Yeah, that's all.
And it's just like, how do we communicate these things to these people? And like, that's what I spent the last year really doing, was getting off the internet and studying behavior and the way that the brain works, and how did we start getting manipulated and lied to, and why is it just so easy for people to believe this but not this? Because if I'm going to try to help people through conversation and interview style things and whatnot, I have to understand how they understand and communicate and receive things. And
I think
it's really wild.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of got their own little bubble, and that, and in all honesty, I didn't really start paying attention until the pandemic hit, and then that really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I started paying closer attention. But prior to that, I didn't think, that wasn't even a thought in my mind. And I think
the world was just going to be the world.
And I think that's the majority of people, is where they're really not opening their eyes to a lot of things, whether it be political or media or just whatever. Everybody's in their own little bubble. But when you really start looking at things and opening your eyes and asking questions, and that really, you start to see what it really is.
You have to start deprogramming yourself, basically. It's wild. And it sucks for me because I've always been, for one, I just like my freedom. Don't tell me what to do. Don't make me do what I don't think is fair to do. I believe in certain things and I don't believe in other things. And if you overstep things, I'm not going to tolerate it. And I think that, it's happened for years. I remember in 2008 when Obama started implementing the participation trophy and kind of that entitlement thing and whatnot. I was on the internet then telling people the long-term effects of this are going to be horrible. And even back then, people, I'm crazy, conspiracy theorist, I'm a little dramatic, whatever it may be. And now kids don't understand how to receive the word no. Or you're not getting what you want. And or they don't get what they want, they take it to the streets and burn and loot, and it's crazy. And so that's the longevity effects of that. What are the long-term effects going to be of what's happened the past 2 years?
Yeah, I agree. Like the participation trophy things, I hated that.
But that entitlement and tolerance thing, I think, is really what's got us here. Is that the tolerant, for the most part, is because it became rude to tell somebody that they were wrong. So they just, instead of being rude and telling them that they were wrong, they just started accepting it and tolerating it. Well, now all the nonsense that's being done is accepted and tolerated, and no one's telling anybody how wrong it is.
Yeah, somebody needs to have a hard truth with them.
Right. Well, I've tried. People think I'm an asshole for it. And that's okay. But, I'm trying to figure out different tactics to maybe deal a little bit better with my presentation. But the fact of the matter is that to get the world back to where it needs to be, people just got to be okay being themselves. And that's okay. Matt, if I don't like you saying something, I can tell you that I didn't like it, and it'd be okay. It'd be fine.
I don't have to be offended by it.
Better to do that and you not make that mistake again and me not have to accept it again than to continue going on, because eventually I would get tired of you saying something that bothered me, or you're not saying something, or I just would get tired of, putting up with it or something. And then things fizzle out and dissolve, and people are like, well, why did they stop coming around? Or when people could just have a conversation, or it's not even a conversation behind, just like, hey, I didn't like that. Cool, go on.
Well, I've got a huge amount of respect for people that can have those honest conversations. And, as a society or people or, whatever we want to call it, we've got to be okay to have those hard conversations, whether it be good or bad or whatever.
Especially now.
To where you get rid of that entitlement and participation trophies and everything else and just have hard truths with people. Because, if you've got a friend that's doing something they shouldn't be doing and they might not think it's that big of a deal, and then you actually go have a hard truth with them and be like, hey dude, you gotta knock this shit off. And that might steer them back towards the right path, or maybe not, but just people need to be able to have those hard conversations. Like when I was at Dollywood during that time, during that whole participation trophy thing started coming about, and I think the company was seeing a bit of that, and they actually was part of their leadership training was being able to have hard truths with people. Like there's a whole program on it, and I was really impressed on how they rolled that out, because we talked about it all the time. But
it removes our ability to have conversation. If we only talk about the good things, then we're not talking about the bad things. And we don't talk about the bad things, so we're keeping them all inside, or we're talking about them with the people that we shouldn't be talking to them with.
And you don't grow from that either. Because because everybody gets in their own world, and their own thing, and their own mentality, and how they're thinking about certain things, where they might think something's normal, or they might think something's okay, but in order to grow, you just need to have like a good friend, or even if it's not a good friend, just have that hard conversation with you and say, hey, whether you're drinking too much, you need to eat better, you need to do this or do that, whatever that situation is to have that conversation to grow and learn from it. Like we were at a wedding professionals dinner the other night, and we were talking about that as a group, as a potential option for like a meeting we had coming up, where, if each person wrote something that so there's a bunch of different, let me back up a little bit. So this dinner was a group of wedding professionals. You had a bunch of planners, photographers, DJs, whoever. And the goal of this group is just to help each other through the wedding industry and to grow and to become better at what you do.
So it's a small networking group.
It's like a small wedding networking group. A lot of good people, a lot of good talent in that room. But Brian, one of the guys that's in that group, was talking about a potential event where, each of the vendors write something about the other one that they could do better or work on. And, a lot of ears perked up when that happened. And I think for the most part, everybody in the room would have been fine with it. But just having that to say, hey, that's how we grow as entrepreneurs. That's how we grow as business owners. And
you got to hurt somebody's feelings.
And I was all about it. I was like, hey, hurt my feelings. Tell me how to be better. Because I like to think that I'm humble enough to know that I'm never perfect. There's always something I can work on to do better. And so, we're all about it, saying, we might hurt some people's feelings, but at the same time, it'll help us grow.
And that's how you grow, and that's how you legitimately build confidence. Because if you don't know where your bottom line bases are, you never know if you're improving or getting better. So if I don't come to you and say, Matt, I noticed you was doing this, but if you maybe worked on it a little bit like this, it may get better, or your shots didn't seem as clear as they were. Was there something going on in your mind or your equipment or something like that? It could be something that, you weren't even aware of. And then if somebody was too afraid to come tell you, that can't get fixed. If there was a problem with the camera, that you didn't know about because you were overlooking or too busy or something, but someone else saw, but they didn't want to bring it to your attention out of fear, well, then now the problem never got solved, you know? Or if no one said, hey, I feel like you could really improve on this if you did this, or just internally you figured out how to work on it. Right. Well, once you see that improvement, or once someone else comes to you and says, hey, I really noticed you've improved on that, that's really awesome. Now your confidence is going up. Yeah. But if you never know any of the things that you need to improve on, or that you are doing better, or any growth happening, you never grow in your confidence. And I feel like that's part of what people don't have at all right now. They don't have the confidence to know that they're growing, and they don't have the confidence to speak to someone else and say, hey, I don't think that you're doing this the best that you can. I feel like you really could do better.
Yeah. And I think it plays into it too, to where our strengths and weaknesses, what we see versus what other people see, like
Right, the perception. Yeah.
And where, historically in the past, without going into details, like I thought I was really strong in certain things, I actually wasn't. And things I thought I was weak in, I actually was strong in.
Right.
And so that was I don't want to keep talking about Dollywood, but Dollywood had a thing where it was peer reviews, where it was characteristics, mentality, behavior, and stuff like that. So you would rate yourself what you thought, and then your peers would. Like, so if I was a manager...
Was it anonymous?
Yeah, it was anonymous. But I took so much value out of that and helped me grow as an individual, because certain things that I thought I was strong in and certain things that I thought I was weak in was flip-flop. Just because...
I would love to go on the internet and ask people what their perception of me is so that I can genuinely know.
Yeah.
But I don't think people would tell me the truth.
Yeah. Well,
The assholes would.
Yeah, you got other factors in that, to where it's kind of the same thing. If somebody's happy, they're not going to leave a good or bad review. They're just going to do nothing.
Right.
But the people that are pissed, they're going to say something bad.
But that's how you grow. You have to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. And, perception is 100% of it. And our own worst problems, Dean. That's part of why I say our mentality is our reality, because literally our thoughts are exactly what the truth is becoming.
Yeah.
And I think that most people don't even realize how much internal dialogue they have with themselves.
Yeah.
And that, self-talk conversations that they have. I don't think most people do it. They've just internalized it.
Until the past couple of years.
Yeah.
I really didn't.
Really?
Like, I really didn't start, I did self-evaluation, like when I was at Dollywood, and we had those review things I was talking about, but I never really sat down and thought about just my internal dialogue and just the thought processes in my head and what I'm doing. It was just going through emotions every day, or going through emotions, not emotions, but just really started paying attention to that the past couple of years.
Kind of on auto program. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, I feel like my internal dialogue is always a conversation with myself and God.
Yeah.
Like, just always in that conversation. But I'm very intentional with it.
Yeah.
I wasn't until I learned to be, but learning to be has completely changed everything, because every action and move that I take has intent behind it. I have thought of it beforehand.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of practice to learn how to do that, because I was always good at thinking before I did things. Just being ADHD, my brain was always going, but I'm intentional with every single move that I make and everything that I do. And I think that most people act with zero intent. They just react instead of act
Yeah, and that's
with
the way
intent.
that's the way I was at Dollywood, which, not saying anything negative about them, but we were reacting to everything. It was like reacting to a dolly coming in or reacting to this event coming up. There's nothing bad saying about that. But when I shifted over into my new business, to your point, every decision, every move was made with intention, with something coming on down the line or something else like that.
Yeah.
Time out for a second. I'm about to pee my pants.
No worries. Let me see where we're at on time.
I'm not even paying attention. I have been so
Hour and 15 minutes. We probably need to start wrapping it up.
Let me pee real quick. Oh, I drank too much of that water and drank too much coffee and grapefruit juice.
Do I edit this out?
I should leave it in.
I think I will. Every other podcast that goes on for this amount of time, the people get up and go to the restroom. They just have fancy gear that they edit it and whatnot.
Can't believe how warm it is out here.
I know.
What was it, a week ago? We're in the single digits. Now we're at 70.
I was going to not tell the people where we are, but I guess since you've mentioned your previous work location, they'll probably figure it out.
The foothills of East Tennessee.
Yeah. The people can still hear you. You're mic'd up.
I forgot I was mic'd up. Let's see how this one is looking. Yeah, it's got 22% left. Oh.
All right.
Much better now.
Well, let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Because I'm going to have to go get the kiddo from school soon.
Yeah.
What do you think, what are some tips that you have, not necessarily just for me, but for what you know I'm trying to do with the podcast and with the podcast in general that you see, aside from me and then the environment of the world, that I can do to best achieve what I'm wanting to?
Well, I think just having those real conversations to where, you know, historically we've talked about before where, you know, we've had a lot of great conversations while we've been friends, and just having those with people and being able to see that. And I think people seeing other people's point of view, whether it's good or bad, I mean, having healthy conversations with people, if it's controversial or just normal, you know, BS and talking to each other or anything else. I think people being able to see that's, you know, hugely beneficial, and people that might want to listen to us, people might not. But, you know, I think that's why, to your point earlier, that a lot of people are switching to podcasts because they don't trust the mainstream media and stuff like that. They just want to see real people just having real conversations.
They want to know that the people they're listening to are telling them the truth.
Yeah. And
that's,
you know,
more than anything.
I think part of it's you kind of getting your story out about, you know, everything that you've done in your life, and people might be able to hear that. And then also guests of your shows or podcasts or anything that get to hear their story and talk about it and everything else. And some people may learn from it, some people may laugh at it, some people, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just having healthy conversations.
Yeah. And I want to try to not just have conversations with people that are going to agree with me. I really want to try to have some with people with differing opinions to show that you can have conversations with people with different points of view, but still be respectful and a good conversation.
Don't always have to agree, but that's the reason about having conversations.
And I think that's so needed right now, because the media and everything shows that if you disagree with somebody, all hell's breaking loose, you know, and it's such a bad thing if you disagree with somebody and whatnot. And I think that's why people have become so complacent and tolerant, is because the fear of what's going to happen if they're not. Yeah. And the reality is that fear is nothing more than fear. Yeah. Because I made it through the entire pandemic without putting a mask on my face, without obeying anything, without doing anything, and I never got sick, and I've lived completely fine. Yeah. Actually, my life has gotten tremendously better since then. But you know, that's the part of taking the risk and being different and not doing what everybody's doing. I mean, fuck, dude. You know, miserable. Aside from everything else that I was going through in that time, I won't get on too much of that now, but that time is crucially what has got me ready for this. Yeah. Because without going into what all I was going through mentally and personally and whatnot through that time, I knew what was going on, and I knew what was happening, and I knew I wasn't wrong. Yeah. And everybody was telling me that I was wrong, that, you know, I was getting death threats. People telling me I wish I got the virus and died, and I mean, just all kinds of craziness. And like, it had to have a mental shift inside of me and say, these people genuinely don't understand. Yeah. Because at first I was like, you fucking idiot, you're stupid, you blah, blah, blah. But then after seeing it transpire out, I'm like, these people really don't have any idea how bad things are manipulated, and, you know, they're just not open to it. And they've been deceived for so long. And, you know, a lot of them to no fault, you know, because they've been honest and trusting and stuff. But at a certain time, our lives are getting messed with, and you can't live like that anymore, you know. And so I think that, like, those have really brought me to the understanding now of mentally being ready of, you know, I know what I know, I'm confident in it now, and I'm ready. Aside from everything else that's gone on in life too, is that I'm ready to do this, and it doesn't matter what happens now. People need it. I don't care what they say. Yeah. I know that there's no one else doing it. Everybody is miserable right now. So what do I have to lose? Yeah. You know, I've wanted to do it for a long time, and I've prepared myself to. And now that I'm ready, I think the world is in need of it more than anything.
Yeah, I agree. And the you kind of hit it on a second ago. It's where people just in general, as a society, we just got to open our eyes. Sometimes is that we get so busy doing what we're doing, and we're not really paying attention to the big picture or opening our eyes. And I'm not sitting here saying that everybody needs to be a conspiracy theorist or anything else. There's a big difference between having like a hardcore conspiracy theorist and just opening your eyes and paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and it's understanding who you're communicating to as well. I mean, there's things that I can tell you in conversations that you and I can have, and you're not going to think I'm crazy. You're going to understand me. Yeah. I can go have same conversation with somebody else, and they're going to not be receptive to a single word that I say just because their minds aren't there yet, or their perception of who I am isn't willing to receive that kind of information from me and stuff. But I think that we need to get back to having conversations. We might have a guest. Conversations of, hey! I wonder if that's on audio volumes. Anyways, conversations that are pure.
Right.
And let's see if we can get him on the end of this real quick.
Yeah.
Berkey, come here. Say hello to the people in the internet.
I don't know them.
Come here. They're right there. Come here. Wow.
He said, "Shit, I don't know that."
Don't know them people.
Just say hello.
It's not live or anything. It's just video. And if you want to come say hi.
Well, not those. You want to let them see your pretty face.
I am.
They can't see you over there.
I
All right, there he is. All right, let's end this thing.
Is he at this again? You taking pictures of him and everything?
We're doing a video.
We're recording a video.
We're doing a video podcast conversation. I actually nominated you to be another one of his guests.
You want to sit down and talk to me about some stuff?
No, I gotta go out.
Dude, you know how much fun we could have telling the people what they need to know?
Yeah.
You and I could. What do you mean? You're watching it right now.
What the hell is he? What are you doing?
We're going to change the world.
Yeah, for the worst.
No.
Oh, hell.
Hey, listen. Do you know how rich we could get people listening to you and I sit and cut up all day long?
Well, I told you a long time ago, if I had the time, I'd follow him and Dick around for a few weeks, and the footage we'd get from that and put it on YouTube, Grumpy Old Men.
Do it once and he'll change his mind about it. You think it's silly, but I'm telling you.
He sees that AdSense check that he gets from YouTube, would change his mind.
Sure would. Yeah.
Oh, Lord, I can imagine.
All right, Matt, let's end this thing.
Right on.
Should we do a sign out?
Well, thanks for having me as a guest on your podcast,
thanks
brother.
for being
Looking
guest.
forward to seeing many more of them.
Yeah, let's see what happens. We'll do this again when we get a little bit better.
Yeah, sounds good. Peace.